When ready, we can proceed.
You can.
Wow.
Abbiamo anche. We have also my dog is barking.
um, okay, last step uh, is to make your own, to implement your own Gis service. Why? We have seen very powerful services that are existing. Uh, UMap, for instance, is extremely. You can make a slide view of what you have on your map, and all the rest. So, despite the fact that we have very very powerful tools, we may have nonetheless the need to implement something that really follows, for instance, our workflow in taking points, or gives limited possibilities about the way the user may manage the layers and such. So there are reasons why it is of interest to have the tools to implement a Gis service, um, a new Gis service, personal, or anyway something that you can try to give people as a service. Uh, the basic tool for this is a library. That is, we are able to produce a new service to write better programs when we have libraries that help us to avoid solving always the same problems, but inheriting solutions from previous programmers. Um, and therefore, this is the role that plays Leaflet in this game. But let's follow the slides. The main features of a Gis service is the ability to produce a new map starting from an old one, to add dynamically features, to move things, uh, to produce new geographical data and include it into a computer product. Important is to share the results with others because we want to give results around. Possibility to share this kind of meaning the programs, the procedures we use to make our data, but also the possibility to export the data itself across tools and other services. So once we implement a service, we have to keep in mind that our service should be easily integrated with other service, because otherwise it remains a piece of software without connections around. But we may have requirements that are not exactly those that we find in other products. And in this case, as I told you before, I am in the situation of having the having an interest to implement my own service. Leaflet is the name of the library that enables this design step, because inside Leaflet there are a lot of algorithms, knowledge, and things like that that are useful to produce a new service, to write programs that manage maps and such. So this is the last step, and we just scratch the surface of this library, which is in fact a tool because it is used to do something, just to understand what can be done. Um, as I was saying you at the beginning, my interest here is to give you suggestions, hints of things you might do, and not so much with not so much effort, or to ask to people that you know have skills of a certain kind. But just give you suggestions. I cannot go in depth, because 8 hours might be the time, but 8 hours in one day is not something that can leave a trace more than a few days after. um, I want to, as before, I want to give you the possibility to practice what I tell you. And for this, I will use Stack Blitz. Stack Blitz is a IDE, is an integrated development environment that runs on the web. So you do not need to install anything. You just go to the URL, and you have the possibility to write your programs. It's an IDE for JavaScript and more. And I'll show you what happens when you go to the site and log in. And one moment, and I move my visualization to this. This is my browser and Stack Blitz. https://stackblitz.com. You start from here, and of course I've been logged in because I have an account on this platform, but it is not difficult to have one, and the free one is sufficient for many experiments. You notice that we have a lot of platforms here, programming platforms or frameworks, and for us, JavaScript is sufficient. It is, in fact, the simplest of all the ones you see. Maybe the static one is simplest, but anyway, JavaScript. What you see here are three screens, three frames. One is for your code, JavaScript code. One is for the organization of the code. And one is for what the user of your application sees on the screen. Because remember that JavaScript is a language that is used in web applications. The JavaScript program resides on the server. Once you visit the server, you upload from the server or download from the server the code, and you run your code, that code locally. The result of this execution is what you see on the screen. So there is this interplay between the server and the browser on your computer. Here is the code that is on the server. It is organized like this. And here is what happens on your screen when you download the code. This is the basic application that is run when you open a new one in StackBlitz, and it is simply something that prints a line here, JS starter, which is written here. This means that inside a given element in my window, I have this line printed as an header. Okay, this has nothing to do with Leaflet. This is just our environment where we are going to run our programs. To see the right frame preview, I'm browsing the slides to see if I told you everything. Okay, yes, you can do that. You see, as soon as you modify here, you see the display that changes, as if the user was reloading your page. Left toolbar, we'll come to this later on, maybe if we have time. And here I have.
Sorry,
Yes.
Augusto.
Yep.
I use my GitHub account, but okay, maybe now I am. I don't see I am entered with my account, but in the display I don't see what you see. What's
that's you logged into StackBlitz using your GitHub account.
Yeah.
And you see this thing here?
I see what you're seeing.
Yeah.
With a JS starter, but I don't see JS starter on the right.
Maybe you see this split editor here? No. Sorry. No. No, you should see this. I don't understand why not. You mean that you see only this part,
I only see the central part, and in the right side I see the URL, but not the
JS starter.
JS starter right on big in H1.
Let's do that way. In a moment, I'll tell you how to load the project, which is interesting for the tutorial, and you'll tell me this is just nothing, a demo.
Okay.
So we are about going, in fact, to the real project, because I told you about the display here. I'm sorry for Enrica that doesn't see the example here, but not so relevant now. Important is that now you go to the following transparency and follow the steps. That is, in your display, go to connect repository. This should appear. Say import an existing repository. And here you copy the address that you find on the slide, which means this one. Okay, that one, the one that ends with leaflet exercise. Once you have finished, you import the repository. And now it should work. Otherwise, I don't know.
Actually, is still authorizing me. I don't know why. Maybe because I entered with a GitHub account.
But what GitHub? The GitHub, the universal GitHub, or the GitHub of the university?
Of the university.
No, that's a different GitHub. It's
So
the one we all have.
Okay, I do it again.
Okay. This is the address that I just showed you, and you should be able to load this address and see the. No, I do not use the departmental or in our internal GitHub, I don't see any reason
So
to use.
I have to enter with your account?
No,
With
not
what?
needed. Shouldn't, at least.
I have to create another account?
No.
No? I didn't understand.
It is an open.
No, but like, okay, you go on, but I don't.
There is no, it is perfectly open.
Uso un altro browser.
Okay. Let's proceed and import repository, and you should have now this kind of display, and you see how easy it is to have a raster displayed on using leaflet, because the index.html is this one, and there is nothing more than loading the library and some kind of the page, the body of the page. You see here is the heading, and here is the place reserved for my map. So the index.html is really simple, and all the program I need.
Augusto, I think that someone has problem.
Okay.
Just like me, I have to say.
Manage access. Is public and visible to anyone. Could you please try to access this address and see if you see it? The leaflet exercise I told you before.
Put it on the chat.
I can. Okay. You see it? Now, because this process, this tool is very well experimented, I used it for a course during the year, so never had any problem with it. May I have some feedback if there is?
I'm trying to do it. No, it doesn't work.
I can't find the link to our repository in the slides. It is okay. I'll show you the slides. Maybe that's the problem. Okay, you see the slides?
Yes.
Okay, that's the address.
Non l'ho messo nel posto giusto.
So copy this address and simply paste it in the URL of the browser, and tell me if you can see the repository.
Augusto?
Yes.
Can I share my screen and then you?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, I'll do it. you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. When I go to
GitHub.
not to GitHub, but to the other one.
Okay, first go to GitHub.
Okay, go to GitHub. Here.
Okay.
And I singing.
And paste the address here. Okay.
Okay.
This is the repository. Of course, this
is mine. Okay, I go in your.
No, there is no difference.
Okay, but this is okay. This is your
yes,
your
this is my repository. Yeah.
Okay.
Now open StackBlitz. Open another window for StackBlitz.
Where is the StackBlitz?
Plus. Add another window with the plus where you were before. And here write stackblitz.com. Yeah. Okay. Now click on.
I'm as you see, I am with my account. I go in JavaScript.
Exactly.
And now I see what you see, but I don't see in the right side any title. Okay.
And I do not understand why, but I suspect that this is
when I connect repository.
You import an existing repository. Just below the first line, you see import an existing repository. No, up. Yes. Okay. Now hit here, copy. Okay. And I think we can do nothing for the fact that there is nothing shown up, because this is probably due to a block of your browser.
Okay, I have to go in another browser, not
maybe, or it is possible that you use a Macintosh. Yes.
Yeah.
And it is possible that I don't know, but sure thing. This depends on your configuration.
Okay. So I asked for I asked on
browser
sharing the content.
Anyway, you are prevented from doing experiments now, but at least I can you can see on your StackBlitz what happens if not experiencing it. I can give you later on. I'll give you the way to serve this application on a host, and in that way you might see the application running. But anyway, let's go on. One moment that I reopen the right thing. So you see how easy it is to include a tile, an OpenStreetMaps tile inside the browser. This is the only instruction you need. Before that, I have to define which are the coordinates of the center point of my tile, and this is given as a parameter to this map method. Okay. Now you see here there is this label master, and if you click here, there are a lot more. Because this tutorial is in several steps, we will keep adding new things to our service step by step, um, in order to obtain something better and to improve while we see the program that slightly grows in size. The first step, okay, indeed, I was considering to leave you some time to experience with this first program, but maybe it is better that I proceed to the second step, and maybe at that point I will leave you 5 minutes to play with the result. Click here and select 1, which means pop-up. You load the new program, which is slightly longer than the previous one. You see, this is essentially the same that we saw before. Here there is something more. What we do here is to add a marker, this marker here. To perform this operation, we simply need to call the marker method, giving as a parameter the coordinates corresponding to the point where I want to place the marker. So I create the marker in this way. In this way, I have created an object in the markers class. In addition, I also bind a pop-up to this marker. It's something that says rounding. This point has coordinates rounded to 2 digits. Notice the distance from the tower. I'll explain this in a moment, but our result important here is that we have the pop-up that has been associated to the marker. Now we have created this marker, but we have not yet shown it on the map. To do that, we have to call this method add to the map, so that the marker is added to the map. And finally, I open the pop-up. What happens is if I do not open the pop-up, everything disappears. If I let's give a look to the meaning of this pop-up. First, I give as center lat and center longitude the coordinates of the Tower of Pisa, which is approximately here. Next, I recompute. I approximate at 2 digits the two coordinates, and I place the result in point lat and point long. Next, I make my map, and I center the map on the Tower of Pisa. And the following step is to create the marker on the coordinates that correspond to the rounded coordinates, fixed to 2 digits. And, okay, appreciate the distance. Rounding to 2 digits a coordinate can introduce such an error. Not so relevant, but okay, we have shown it. Now, I leave you few minutes, say up to 6 past 4, to play with this very simple program. For instance, try to modify the zoom factor, or compute with 3 digits instead of 4. Okay, do anything you want. You can do any mess. So just play with what you have available. 5 minutes from now. And if you still have problems, just ask me. Maybe we can solve them. But as I told you, it is a quite consolidated practice, this of doing programming exercises in this way. So difficult to have problems. So let's proceed. And we go to the step 2. Mm. You've noticed I have, as long as I do not have a repository associated, I need to avoid committing. So you, in your case, you can modify the code, but unless you decide to fork the project you cannot really save your work. You have always to discard what you have done up to this point, but I consider that you're not doing anything you want to keep. The next step consists in showing the coordinates of a point. Meaning that one pop-up, sorry, click. Okay, instead of showing the previous marker, now we do not have markers, but we have the possibility to click on a point on the map and to see an alert showing which are the coordinates of the point. In that case, I point here and see the tower. I see that the coordinates are 43,723. And you can check against these coordinates here and 396,663, which are exactly the same. Nothing relevant, nothing so relevant, may be useful. See how we do that. The beginning is exactly the same as before. That is, we have here the coordinates of the Tower of Pisa. Here we have the visualization of the map in my canvas, on my screen. And here we connect a function to an event. That is, when something happens on my interface, the program will execute a procedure, a function. In this case, what is the event which is notable, the event of interest? The event is the click, which is written here. The method I'm calling is this on, and the click is the event, and it is an event which is raised when the mouse points and clicks somewhere. What happens when this event occurs? The description of the event is taken as a parameter for the function. And the function that is executed is this simply, which means displaying an alert with inside hai puntato, you pointed, a latitude and a longitude. Latitude and longitude that are taken from the event description itself. I take the point where the click event occurred. I extract from this description the corresponding latitude and longitude. You see, every action is immediately translated in the domain of coordinates, geographical coordinates. So this is the reason for which Leaflet is so powerful. So I take the latitude and longitude from the event, and I extract from this the latitude. I round it to 5 digits, and this is the content of the string just after the hai puntato. Repeat, where is the tower? Here. Hai puntato, 43, blah, blah, plus, comma, and the same process, but applied to the longitude part of the coordinates of the point. Nothing more. Again, extremely simple to do, may be useful for certain users. If you want to see this working on the web directly, this address here corresponds to a real deployment. So you can copy this, paste it here, and anybody will see a corresponding service. A corresponding service, not the same instance of the service, because each of us, each person that uses, I'll paste it in the in the browser. Excuse me, in the here. Sorry. Okay, I've pasted now in the chat of this session, and so you can take it, copy it, paste it in the browser, and you'll see exactly the same service. It is running on the web on a server. See how interesting are the exercises? Replace the alert with a pop-up. You know how to add a pop-up? You can imagine how to do that. I leave you a few minutes to do that, and to reconsider what happens when you copy this address in your computer and all that. Okay, a few minutes. Say at 18 past 4. So let's proceed. The service that we have implemented, some of you have tried to access the service here, and it's fine. You see here is the visualization of something from this place that accessed the service. This service does not leave any result for us, meaning, okay, I see an alert, I erase the alert, nothing remains. Let's consider the possibility to have something that remains after the execution, and step to the following, which is coordinates in HTML. In this case, what happens is that when I click on the map, the point is acquired and its coordinates are written here. That is on the bottom of my page. See how it works. The display is limited, so you do not see what happens as soon as it happens, but okay. And here I have 3 points. How can I do that? The first part is always the same. That's the coordinates of the tower. This is the modality to declare my map. And when there is a click, the function has been modified. It is not a complex program. It has a lot of comments, but in fact, it's 5 instructions, five statements. First of all, I have to record the place where I want to display my coordinates. And this is obtained with this instruction, document get element by ID display coord, which means that here in this display coord, I will place a handle for this place here. Just after the coordinates list, there is a div, and this div is named display coord. So I take this handle, and next I create a marker because I want to place a marker using the latitude and longitude, the coordinates that I find in the event. And I add this item, this marker, to my map. You see, I make all the actions in the same line because I apply add to the result of the creation of the marker. This is for the creation of a new marker. Now I want to write the coordinates in the coordinates list. And this is done here. Display coord is the handle for this space. And in the inner HTML, which means in the HTML that is placed inside this element, this div, I add this data, which means the 2 coordinates as found inside the marker. So there is the latitude, the latitude, comma, the longitude. It's something that we have already seen in the previous step. Formerly, it was printed inside the alert. Here, it is being printed inside an element in the DOM. Is it okay? we have something that is beginning to resemble to a service. We mark points on our map, and as a result, we see the list of all the coordinates. They're not on a layer, not yet on a layer. They are just recorded as lines. You see, the marker is declared inside this function. So there is, when the function has finished, there is no trace of this marker. It completely disappeared. All that remains after the execution of the handler of the event is this recording here. Not much, but okay, we are, by the moment, we are satisfied with it. Lab activity. I suggest you a reading, and maybe you can try at least to imagine how to display in any way you like the distance between the center, I mean the tower, the distance between the center and the point that you have marked. That is, when I do that, here or somewhere else, should appear the distance of this point from the center. It's not complex. It is one single instruction to add. Try to solve this little problem and first go to the reference and see what you can do. It's a good result if you go to the reference and try to read the reference, because there is the most reliable source of knowledge that you have, instead of going of googling around and finding suggestions already made for solving problems. Okay, 4 minutes to try to solve this small problem. I'll come back at 29 from now, 16, meaning 4 p.m. 29 past 4 p.m. And so we proceed. Next step. Okay, at this moment, we have a map. We can mark points and we see the coordinates. But did you remember what is the coordinate of this point here? Which is the point that I marked first. So we would like to have some way to connect one line here and a point here. So we change a little our approach to the problem and organize the markers in a kind of list. In a list, the objects are organized, are ordered. Let's see what happens. I mark a point here. And here my point is given an index, and the same index appears when I am on the point. This one corresponds to this one. When I add another, this is the 2, and this is the 2. How did I do this complex operation? Okay, this is usually the same, okay. And also here we should know what happens because we have a click. This is the information connected to the click, and this is what I do with this information. Just like before, I have to collect a handle for the place where to put the information. And when I record the marker corresponding to the point where I clicked, which is this parameter here, from the event E, I take the part that indicates latitude and longitude, and this is one parameter for the marker. And inside this marker, I add also another attribute. You know, when we made the exercises with the QGIS, that at a certain point, I added a new attribute by accessing the table of the attributes table, and adding something new. Okay, this is the same. As I say that inside my marker, there is a further attribute that is a title. There is a good reason why I choose article, I explain you. And this title corresponds to a number, n. This number n is initially 1. And each time I add a new point, it is incremented. So it is 1 for the first, 2 for the second, and etc. This one is the only relevant change with respect to the previous example, and also the declaration of n. And it's increment inside the event handler. So each time I add a new handle, marker, the n is incremented and n is displayed as heading of each line. Clear? Again, consider the simplicity. It is a trivial program, but the way to describe it is even more trivial, because consider that there is a complex structure behind the raster, and we add points that are georeferenced. That is, I take the address of the cell, the coordinates of the cell, and all the rest. So this is made so simple by the leaflet library. See if the exercise is of some interest. Configure the marker as draggable. Yes, because here I cannot move the marker alone. Is there the possibility in leaflet to design to indicate that the marker is draggable? Okay, go and check in the chapter about markers in the reference of leaflet. And advanced show the coordinates inside the title, but it is again sufficient that you take this address and go and see what is here and how this can help you to do what I've just asked. Again, a few minutes, I'd say 4 minutes, up to 39:40, past 16. Try to use this. Using this address, you can use this service on your PC and, for instance, find the exact coordinates of your house. There is no security leaking, because you do all this work on your PC, on your browser, so I cannot see what exactly what is the result you obtain. Now it's time for a further step. Because right now we have all the information recorded in a very volatile way. It is true that we are able to associate a point with another. Um, but all this is completely unstructured. The information, as soon as we leave, as I told you, as soon as I leave the um, event handler, the information is lost. So the next step tries um, to organize my points, my information as a layer, and prepare myself to uh, manage this information as a layer. So we go to number 5, which is called array. Here, important, we have the container for our data, the markers. It's an array. An array is a data structure that is made for hosting several data in an ordered way. There is a first one and a second one. In this case, we use this array to contain the markers we are going to use, to create. We do not need to manage the n, this index that previously was growing one by one as I add new points, because in this case it corresponds to the length of the markers array. Better, the length of the markers array plus 1. Because in this case I am going to add a new marker, and if the first one was 1, the second one will be 2, and so. I obtain my handle for the place where I will record my numbers, and I add a new marker, just like before. In order to add my new marker to the array, I use a push operation, which simply does what it says, that is pushing a new object inside one array. So one by one, I create a new object. The object is pushed inside the array, and if at the beginning the length of the markers was 0, then will be 1. That is 0 plus 1. There is the usual title associated. Title, I told you before, it is not, there is good reason to select this name, because the attribute with this name is automatically displayed by leaflet when I hover, as they say, on a marker. So my result here is to add a new point, add a new marker, push it inside this data structure, so that in the end the data structure will contain all the markers I have added. Again, the program is very simple. I changed some minor aspects, made a very simple use of a data structure, and what I obtain is an effective manipulation on my map. Let's see what are the suggestions for the lab activity. Create a button that hides all the markers. you can use opacity to make completely transparent a marker. You have to loop, you have to define a new button, and you have to design a loop that goes through all the markers. Now you have the markers available, so you can loop through them and make all of them completely transparent. Okay, another 5 minutes. We go, you have noticed, we go step by step, 5 minutes of explanation and 5 minutes of exercise. And okay, let's proceed this way.
Can I ask something?
Yeah, sure.
Would it be possible also to see the solution of some exercise? Because for me, as I have never seen something like this, it's not so easy.
But to see the solution of
the exercises.
Exercise.
Yes.
Not in this case,
Okay.
because in this case I will show you how to do in the next one,
Okay.
in a better way.
Okay.
Let's see the previous one, which asked, see if it is sufficiently easy. The marker as draggable. Yeah, too easy. You take this. You take the address I gave you on the slides. You copy.
Yes.
You copy and put here. You go and you reach the page. Okay. Now you browse, looking for what is of interest for you. Drag. Let's Control F. Drag. Marker. Okay, here we are on the point. Draggable. That's an option for a marker. If set to true, it means that the marker is draggable. So I go back to my example. When I define my marker here, I already organized my options here. You remember I told you I have one option, which is this title, which means that when I browse, I hover over the point, I see this title, which is n, which corresponds to the index. Okay, so this is the structure that is called the options. And I also probably find this, let's go up. You see, marker, which is the method I asked before. There is the lat longe, which are the coordinates. And here are the marker options, which is the point we need to add this draggable option. So we go back here. It's okay.
Yes. Up to here, I was okay, but I didn't know how to write it. I mean, with parentheses also.
Draggable is correct. Okay. Okay. I simply say that the option draggable is true.
Yes, now it's clear.
And what happens is that I can move the and advanced, no, but no, this is really complex because you have to, while you are moving the point, you have the possibility to obtain the coordinates where the point, the marker ends up to be, but it is rather complex to do what follows here. Let's go to the previous one. Display the distance. In this case, I almost gave you an explicit suggestion about, but I'll show you better. The suggestion here is to go to this address here, because what I want to do is to find the distance from the point where I put my marker to the Pisa tower. That is the center of the map, which is more or less here. Now, in this page, you browse and you find distance. Okay, this is a method that you apply. That is, you have to apply this distance in order to obtain the number, and you have to apply this to, I am going up to see what is to an event. Hey, distance here. So I go back here and I write that I want the distance from one point to the other. We have one point, which is this marker here, which is the point I've just added. And the other point is the one of which we have longitude and latitude, which is the center. I already did the conversion from the two coordinates to the latitude and longitude, and it is this instruction here, which takes the two coordinates and returns a lat long object. So here is now what I'm wondering about is at what object need I to apply to this method. Let me see if I understand it from here. It's clear, right, up to now?
Yes, yes.
So for conversion from location, apparently it is applied to an event, but it's not so. Let's see what happens like that. Distance is not defined because I have to apply it to, don't know, a map, but I'm not sure that this is the solution, or maybe yes. Yes. Let's do something better. Plus. Okay. Okay. Okay, that's the distance. I used this method that it exists for the maps, even if here it was attributed to the events. But anyway, clear
Yes, thank you.
and okay, and we proceed. We were at step here, layer, which is the next one. You see how important it is to know where the real information is, because one, it is not exactly wrong, but more dangerous way to try to find a solution to a problem for which you do not have a solution is to browse the internet, to go Google for a good definition of the problem and find if someone else found a solution. It is fine, you can do that, but you must be careful, and in the end you must understand what is written in this instructions, because often it happens that these instructions are not exactly wrong, but maybe they solve a problem which is slightly different from your one, and you finish up with a solution which is not the simple direct solution to your problem, but with something that in the end solves your problem, but not exactly. So it's better to go to the source, to have the manuals if you are able, and you need to be able to read them in order to find the solution you need. So we are at the step 6, which means layer, which, as the name says, uses the most natural way to group features, because we learned during the tutorial, since the beginning I told you features are grouped into layers, not in arrays, because the layer has further features and possibilities that a simple array does not have. A layer is a Gis concept, which has a good reason to be. So instead of using an array, we are going to use a layer. What happens is that in leaflet, every single marker is a layer. So it is a layer with just one feature inside, but it's a layer. So what we want to do now is to group several layers into a super layer, as to say. The correct name is layer group. So the beginning, this is the usual thing we have. And here we define an array. Sorry, a group of markers. This is wrong. It's not an array, but a group of markers. And we define this in this way. L, wherever you see this L, means leaflet. That is the simple way to call a function in the leaflet library is to prepend this L, which means this is emitted from the leaflet library. So I create this group of layers which contains markers. So the variable is called markers. And I add this layer to my map. My map is called a map, and I add to a map my new group of layers. One thing I would like to do is to solve the last point of the previous example. I recall you say, create a button that hides all the markers. Complex to do, but here we will find a very easy solution, which consists in grouping all these markers inside the same structure. And since this is a leaflet structure, and since this is a Gis layer, it is almost obvious that there is a method that effectively hides all of them with one simple operation. So we add our new layer to the markers, and we add a control. A control is this one. It's a small window that controls the visibility of a layer. We can decide that these are visible or not. There are two lists of layers that can be controlled, because you may imagine that here I have just one because my example is simple, but I may have several. I may have more levels, more layers that I can make visible or not. So here is the room for several, and these are the base layers, and I can select just one of them, and so they are indicated with radio buttons. Choose one. And next there is another list of layers, which is the overlay layers. And here I have a checkbox button, meaning that I can select more of them and have all of them displayed on my map. Here I include only my markers, in fact, my only layer in the picture. And here is how I do that. Control, I specify the controls, the layers for the control, and I add this new item to the map. L stands for leaflet. I call a constructor, which is control. I create a control and I apply to this control a configuration, which is obtained through a method, which is layers, with two parameters. One is the list of layers. Better, this is an object, not a list, but anyway, with an object containing the base layers, and next another parameter with the overlay layers. And I end up adding this further control to my map. Add to a map. The rest is similar to what we saw before, except for the fact that now I do not push a new marker to my array, but I add a new layer. As I told you, each marker is a layer in a leaflet. I add a new layer to my super layer, to my layer group. Each time I add one, and the index of each marker that I add is can be obtained in that way. Markers, which is the name of my marker variable, get layers. This gives the markers as an array, and at this result I can apply the length to know how many objects, markers are in that array. Markers is the object. I apply the method that extracts an array of markers from an array of layers from my object, and here is the length, which means how many of them are there. And the behavior is the following. I place one or more markers here. The coordinates are recorded here. And in the end, I can decide to make visible or not all of them. The lamp activity is to add a pop-up to all features in a layer. I leave you some time, the usual 5 minutes, to try to solve, and maybe later on I will give you an explicit suggestion. This because we are almost over with the time, and I would like to almost reach the end of this last part of the tutorial. So 4 minutes up to 10 past 5. Okay, I was trying to solve the problem, but I have not found the right way to. So you can work on it. Layer. You see, it's a function that is applied to a layer and transforms in this way, but there is no pop-up. Okay, let's proceed. Anyway, it's okay, the basic concept, outside the fact that I'm not able right now to apply this function here, this method here. Next step, I have a layer now, and one thing that I can do is to transform it into a standard representation, which is GeoJSON. This is important because once I have my structure represented in a standard way, I have a lot of opportunities to exchange, work on it using several other ways. So let's see how to transform my super layer into a GeoJSON representation. To obtain the GeoJSON representation, I simply need one statement, one instruction, which is this one here, JSON stringify. Sorry, the important thing is this one, markers dot GeoJSON. We found it here. Is a function that transforms a set of markers, a group of layers, into a GeoJSON representation. And once I have the GeoJSON representation, I can turn it into a string. And this gives me the possibility to exchange, to send around this information. And if we open the console and run the program, it's a little crowded right now, the place here. And I have no way to hide my visitors. Okay, maybe you are luckier than me and you see what is hidden here. I tell you that here is the list of points. In this moment, just 1 points. You see, as I add new points, the list becomes longer, and the list contains the kind of things we saw before at the beginning of this long seminar. You see type, feature, collection, because it is a collection of features, and properties. Sorry, the geometry is of type point, and the coordinates are the ones we may almost expect. So we are in the end of our long exercise. Step by step, you see the program hasn't grown very much. We have the method in the on that corresponds to the click that has somehow grown, but not so much. In fact, there are always almost the same instructions, but we have a lot of functionality. We can add several points. We can they are organized into a layer. We are able to print them using a standard GeoJSON. All this is obtained with a program that has less than 40 lines, that is less than 40 lines long, which means doing something serious with this kind of support is feasible with reasonable effort. The last step now is to go to the cloud. Because we have the data, it is represented in a standard way, but we have a service that when I stop it, when I shut down the service, when I close my window, simply disappears, because the points that I have placed here, this is a view of the project. When I close and I reopen the same location, of course, no, sorry. Of course, we find nothing, because everything is volatile. Everything is stored only inside my browser. What if I want to save this outside? It is possible. I have 3 steps more that I cannot complete now, but I will briefly tell you what they do in few words. Let's go to the next one, create storage. Okay, I have to add a new button here. What I will do now is to store my GeoJSON string into a very simple repository. It is called a so-called key value store. It's a place, it's a service that provides me the storage of a single string, which becomes accessible through a key. That is, I give the key, I obtain the same string that I recorded before. It is a way to keep in the cloud one very simple information, which is a string. And this is all we need here, because we have our markers stored inside a string, which is the GeoJSON string. With a new button, what I want to do is to obtain a new key. And this way I click here, and the server returns me a string. This becomes my key. I can use this key in order to store a string and to retrieve the same string. This is done here. And I can just tell you a few things about this. Fetch is the way I go to the server and make a post, an HTTP post operation with a URL which ends with a get key. And this is the way in which I obtain this key. Whenever I receive this key, I elaborate, I draw out of the response the information that is useful, and I use this key to store the points I have already recorded. In this case, I have set as an empty storage because I had no points here. But okay, let's redo that. I put down some points here, and I ask my new, and I obtain a new key, which this time is related with these points. That is, my points have been recorded as a string, in correspondence with this key. And this is what this function does. You see here, I send the request for a key, and here is another fetch that sets the value of my string associated with the key to a given value, which is derived from my markers. That is, I put in the body of my request a stringified version of the markers. Next step is to do other save operations, because once I have created a new storage, then I may want to save new data on this storage. Okay, I started with a new, and next I do that, and I may want to save more data, and this is what I obtain now. Save was successful. The save button is much similar. The operation of this button, okay, on click means that when I click on this button, the button is created here. I cannot go into details, I'm sorry, but here is the button in the HTML. And this is the save operation. Let's go to the last one, which is the load. Load operation means that once I have saved new points, I can copy this. There are other ways I can operate, but if I do that, you see, they're still alive. I can pass this key to a friend and say, these are the points of interest for us, and he will be able to download this same do not expect to obtain good results. It's just a demo. It's just a demo project, so it's not done for be useful in reality. But understand how it is simple to obtain the final result of having a shareable map using this library. It's okay that here I had to add something that is more complex than what we saw before, but here there is no leaflet. This is simply JSON. Here I add a button and I fetch data using this button. There is a little leaflet here, just this operation here and other similar operations there, where I speak about the markers. Most important and very last step in our long travel through Gis operation is a real deployment, because when I told you to type this URL here, I was using, in fact, a deployment of my code on this server, but this server will not stay there much longer than my IDE is open. When I close this window, this service will remain up for a certain time, and next it will disappear. If I want to keep this service active longer, then I have to do a real deployment. To deploy on a platform as a service, cloud way of hosting services. In the case of StackBlitz, there is a direct connection with a platform as a service cloud, which is Firebase. And I can deploy immediately my project on Firebase, going here. In my case, I already have created empty projects that I can use to deploy things during lectures. So these are substantially empty containers. When I have a project that is ready and that I want to test and share with others, I can identify which is the container that I want to fill with my new project and simply deploy. There is a new server that is created here. And finally, the site is open and operational. I can tick here. And this is not a project like the previous one, a deployment like the previous one, which was volatile in the sense that after a few hours after I close my IDE, the project disappears, the deployment disappears. This is persistent. I have limits because I have a free account, so I cannot have more traffic than a certain threshold, but this is here to stay. It is a real service, and you can use this address here. I copy it in the chat, and you can, and you will see that it will remain there for time. Probably I will erase it in the next days, but it's there and it will remain active. And using this kind of resource, you can share data, you can do a lot of things useful from the point of Gis systems. And that's it. I finished. I've rushed through the last steps in the program, but as I told you, these are not much interesting from the point of view of leaflet. They are there simply to show that at this point you are ready to share data with others. And if there are questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Okay, Augusto, many thanks.
Uh-huh.
This is a good point in time to make questions to Augusto. Everything was crystal clear.
Okay. Have I to believe you? Are you really sincere?
Okay, thank you very much, Augusto. And at this point, really, if there are no questions, I'm going to stop the registration.
Sure, we can stop. And
in any case, I'm sure that if you have some questions to other things, you can always write an email either to us or to directly to Augusto, so that is not a problem. Okay, many thanks again.
Okay.
It has been a long day, but with lots of things.
Very long day for me too.
Okay, thanks again.
Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye. Now
Bye.
I stop the registration. Interrompi registrazione. Bye bye.
Thank you for the lesson.
Thank you. Bye.